Welcome to the Celebrate Arkansas podcast. I'm Jocelyn Murphy, the managing editor, here with Alexa Williams, Director of Growth and Development. And today we're joined by Dan Bennett, a ghost tour guide at the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs. Thank you for being here, Dan.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited for our spooky October episode. And our Alexa and I are both particularly excited to have you here with us because we both, she was saying before we started, are very into spooky season, paranormal activity things, and it's all, and the Crescent is so famous and such an interesting, I think, gem is not the right word, but you know,
piece
like
of Arkansas history,
yes.
right?
I think that everyone knows a little bit about it, but a lot of people don't know very much about it,
Sure.
and maybe don't know some of the stories about why it's so famous. So definitely excited to talk about that.
Well, sure. Now, the hotel, it opened in May of 1886, so it's 138 years old now, and almost all the time was a hotel, but it's got some other history that you guys probably already have heard about, and some of the, I don't know if any of the people that might be watching have heard about. But so at the beginning, it was a really luxurious hotel for the rich folk that used to come to Eureka Springs. Eureka Springs, as you probably already know, was because of the healing waters that it all started, and so these rich guys, Powell Clayton was one of the founders of a group called the Eureka Springs Improvement Company. These are a bunch of rich guys that came to town during the heyday. And at this time in their history, we're talking like 1882, 1883, there are more than 10,000 people living in Eureka Springs. Mm-hmm. It was the fourth largest city in Arkansas, which is crazy. I mean, you guys know Eureka Springs. Right. There's only a couple thousand people there now. So it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
And so all these rich guys showed up, and they thought, hey, it could be a great idea to build a resort to cater to our rich friends. So they built the Crescent Hotel, and it took them a couple of years. They spent the astronomical amount at that time of $294,000 to build the place, and opened it up in May of 1886. Anyway, so it was a really exclusive hotel, very posh. They had orchestra for dances and parties. They had a hydraulic elevator even back then. There was there were Edison electric lights. It was a really and private bathrooms in many of the rooms,
wow.
Which is quite a luxury. I mean, back in the day, you shared it with the hall,
Yeah.
So it was a big luxury, and that's how it all began. And so, they were getting their rich friends to come to town, buy land, build a house, which all the Victorian homes that are there. Most of these guys, they got built during this time period when all these rich folks were showing up, and then 20th century started up and it got kind of quiet because the healing waters thing kind of just kind of fizzled out, and people moved away, and the town returned to more like a couple thousand people type thing. And anyway, the hotel almost closed, and the Frisco Railroad took over at that point, and they still ran the hotel in the summer. But in 1908, to make ends meet, they began to lease the hotel during the winter to a college for girls, and that was from Little Rock. Actually, it was called the Maddox College at the beginning, but it became the Crescent College for Young Women, and it was a boarding school. And these were young ladies from wealthy families, a lot of oil wealth in those days, from Texas and Oklahoma, a lot of oil patches then. And so they'd come for the school year, study art, literature, music, child welfare, stuff like that, nursing, and those kind of things. And so for about 25 years, that's how it went. Hotel in the summer, school for girls the rest of the year. And it was working out pretty well. But the Great Depression, crashed the economy of lots of places, and Eureka Springs was no exception. And so the hotel finally closed. For lack of visitors, and so the school, of course, and it stayed that way for about 3 years. The hotel was all closed up, and that's when it turned into, it was bought by a man named Norman Glenwood Baker, and so he was a guy from Iowa, and he was basically a con man, okay, and he opened up his third cancer curable hospital at the Crescent Hotel. It was the hospital resort in the clouds. It was a place where you could go and get cured of cancer, allegedly.
Right.
But of course, he was a con man. For 2 years, he ran the place as the cancer hospital, and he made a ton of money. He made, in today's equivalent money, close to $40 million.
Wow.
It was back then. It was about between $2 and $4 million, and so hundreds of people came there, and most of them were told they were cured and went home and died of cancer. But people did die in the building, and so there's some history from that, and this is where a lot of our ghosts come into play during this, because his activity has contributed at least 3 ghosts that I can think of off the top of my head that we have at the hotel. And so that ran for about 2 years, like I said before. And then, so finally he gets arrested for mail fraud, of all things, because he would mail out these brochures. And am I talking too much?
No.
We're
enthralled.
You wouldn't interrupt me.
No.
But so he got arrested for mail fraud, and he served 3 years, a little more than 3 years in prison at Leavenworth up there in the federal penitentiary. And so that was the end of that era of the hotel. A lot more about him I can tell you about if we want to get there. But
well, you'll have to tell us about your outfit too.
Well, yes. You may have noticed. Yeah. You may have noticed. On the ghost tours, there's about 11 ghost tour guys all together. It's very popular. It's crazy how popular it is. I mean, on the weekends we might do 9-10 tours a night.
Wow.
It's nuts. And annually, approximately 30,000 people go through this ghost tour. That's impressive. It wows me. I've been doing it for 5 years myself, doing the ghost tour. Now, I've lived in Eureka Springs for 35 years.
Okay.
So I've heard all about the hotel, of course, for years and years. And this is not a new thing. I mean, people who may not, the Crescent Hotel has been talked about as a haunted hotel for decades. In fact,
called. Sorry, was I about to step on your?
No, not at all. What were you going to say?
It's called America's Most Haunted Hotel, correct?
Yeah. We call it America's Most Haunted Hotel, and it's pretty well known. We get people that come from all over the country, and I've had. Just the other day, I had some people from Australia on the tour. Now, that wasn't their only reason for coming, obviously, but they had heard about the hotel, and they wanted to have a tour and check it out, and kind of interesting. We get people like that all the time. And I had a train of thought going there, and I lost it. Choo-choo.
The costumes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So anyway, so we wear these. So I adopted this lab coat look because.
Are you Dr. Baker?
No.
Okay.
As I tell people in the hallways, I'm just one of his associates.
Okay.
But and he never claimed to be a doctor. I mean, I will give him that. He never claimed to be a doctor. People called him doctor, and he wouldn't correct them, of course. But he never claimed to be a doctor. But he had a massive ego, the man. He was really is an interesting guy. And I have become. We have a tour that we do at 10 o'clock most every night that's called the Expert Tour. And it's a little more in-depth about Norman Baker and some of the other ghosts. And that's another reason why I dress in this get-up, because I'm one of the experts on Norman Baker. I've studied him a lot and read about him, and he is an interesting cat. But we can get into that in some more detail if you want to.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening and not watching, Dan here is wearing his white lab coat that has Baker Hospital insignia on it. So he's very much looking the part of a doctor during the cancer clinic era.
Yes, and a purple tie. Purple was his big color.
I noticed that.
Yeah, purple was his big color. It was his favorite color. He had a purple car. He painted the chimneys of the hotel purple, which are still purple today. And it was his thing. And we surmise it was probably because of the royal, color aspects.
Sure.
He was
high on himself.
Oh yeah, he was famously pretty proud of himself. Really thought quite a bit of his ideas, and well, I mean, he was a smart guy. He was a really smart guy, and an excellent showman, and persuasive and charming and all that good stuff. But he was using it for the dark side.
Yes, preyed on people with those talents.
He did. And it was the Great Depression, and people were desperate, and he was just really good at what he did, which was fleece people, which is kind of sad. But like I said, after that, the hotel then reopened under the ownership of some people from Chicago, and went through a few years of pretty good ups and downs, and then we went through a few different owners over those years too, and it is expensive to run that place. It's
very large.
It's an old building,
Yeah.
And so some folks, it was kind of tough sometimes, and actually there was a fire in 1967 that burned the penthouse off the top of the building and damaged on the fourth floor. And the people who owned it back then, they just put on a flat roof and put the place up for sale again. So we went through a few different owners after that. And, it got so bad at one point that the hotel was closed down to the public. And it was all but condemned and was going to be auctioned off to the highest bidder. we're a little bit worried about that in town because the rumor was we were going to bulldoze it, right?
Yeah.
We didn't like that idea, but nobody had any money. Well, these people came to town named Marty and Elise Rennick, and they're very nice people. So they showed up in town for an auction of antique musical instruments that they collect, and they did not plan to
buy the hotel.
Well, no, they hadn't planned on it, as far as I know anyway. But they wound up buying 2 hotels. They bought the Basin Park Hotel first, and then a couple months later they bought the Crescent Hotel. And they still own, their corporation still owns the hotel today. Mr. Rennick has passed away. He's been gone about 15 years. Mm-hmm. But Mrs. Rennick, she's a very nice lady, actually lives in the hotel. They restored the penthouse about 20 years ago, and she lives in the restored penthouse up there.
That's really
cool.
And
oh yeah, she's a very nice lady. and they're the ones that started the ghost tours. Now before they came, the owners back then did not talk about the ghosts. They thought it was a really bad idea. In fact, as a little side trip here real quick, 30 years ago, I was freelancing as a radio reporter for the public radio station down here, KUAF. And so it's getting near spooky season, right? So I thought, I'll go to the hotel. This would be a great little story. So I go to the hotel to talk to the guy. His name was Dennis back then, the manager. And I go to his office and we're talking about the hotel, and it's near, it's getting near Halloween. So I'm thinking this would be a great story, a little ghost story. So I asked him, hey, so Dennis, let's tell me about the ghosts. He's like, no, turn it off. No.
Wow.
He would not talk about it. He thought it would be bad for business. And maybe it would back then. I don't know.
Right.
But boy,
not
you can't
anymore.
tell today.
Well, you were just saying before we started, it seems like everyone's interested in the paranormal and interested in the spooky aesthetic, the spookiness of it's very popular now.
Things have changed since I was a kid. That's all I'm saying. it's not like, but it's great. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I have a lot of fun with it when I'm doing it. I have my ghost tour guide name is actually it's silly, but it's Fillmore Graves.
Okay.
Have a little fun with it.
Yeah, so you have to.
Yeah, I do anyway. Some people are a little more serious about it.
Okay.
And then some people, they have no interest in ghosts whatsoever, don't believe.
Right.
And their wife or husband dragged them there, or the kids want to see it.
Yeah.
And so we on the tour.
Different levels.
Yeah. So we mix in a lot of history and the stories themselves, so there's something for everybody on the tour, really. I mean, you don't have to be a big believer or anything like that. You don't have to believe it at all. I mean, you just enjoy, getting to look around the hotel and hearing some interesting stories. And a lot of them, are true. I mean, especially the Norm Baker stuff. That's what fascinates me the most is Baker.
Yeah. How does one get into being a paranormal tour guide? Because you said you live in Eureka. There's lots of historical things. I would imagine there's plenty of other historical types of tours or food tours, or you could do different things. So what was it about the Crescent and becoming a ghost tour guide that really called to you?
Well, it didn't. A friend of mine worked at the Crescent Hotel, and he was it's told me that, they're looking for tour guides if you're interested. And I thought, well, it sounds like, a couple hours a night. Shouldn't be too bad, and so that's what happened. I applied, and so that's what happened. But I've known some history of the hotel and of the town. I was, I'm interested in that kind of thing already. Mm-hmm. So, there is a certain personality type that fits well with this kind of job. You've got to be a little outgoing, a little, not afraid to talk to people, that kind of thing. So. And have an interest in the history and the other details, and be a decent storyteller. I mean, I've had a lot of, like I said, in radio and also in community theater and that kind of thing. So, it just worked out pretty well. And 5 years later, I'm still doing it. It is a lot of fun, and it's not too taxing. Well, I guess I do it for about 4 nights a week. I do it nowadays, but 3-4 hours a night, get to meet some nice people, make a little money. It ain't bad.
So before you started doing the tours, did you believe in ghosts then, or was it something that was gradual as you continued to work there?
Well, I would still describe myself more as a skeptic.
Okay.
Now, I'm not, but I'm open-minded. Okay. I'm saying, I've had some things happen, that make me go, but I'm not an unbeliever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm just like, there's got to be some explanation. There's not, and one of our paranormal investigators that comes to the hotel quite often, he's a man named Larry Flaxman, and a real smart guy, and he's in Little Rock. He's doing paranormal investigations for a long time, and we share kind of the same kind of interest in it, almost it's more of a scientific,
Right.
that there's something going on here that we don't understand, but it's not magic. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not just some kind of it's within the realm of the natural laws, so to speak. He gets into things like quantum entanglement and stuff like that.
Really deep stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And but it makes sense. And he actually he comes to the hotel. We have an event in the winter, a couple of events actually in the winter that I just want to throw out there real quick in case people are interested. ESP weekend. It's a thing in January, at the end of January. It stands for Eureka Springs Paranormal Weekend, and so we bring the paranormal investigators to the hotel. They bring the fancy equipment, and if you come it's a convention. So if you come for the convention, you can stay at the hotel or not. It's up to you, but most people do. And so we have lectures and slideshows, roundtable discussions, things like that. We discuss the ghosts, learn how to use the equipment, and then we ghost hunt.
Yeah.
So on that weekend, we do not rent out the haunted rooms. They're open for inspection.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the rooms that are most well known for being haunted are open to be looked at. And so when people that come for the convention, they get to go run around the hotel until 3 o'clock in the morning, exploring the hotel with the ghost hunters too. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And so that's a neat thing. And then we have a new thing, relatively new now. This will be our 3rd year, I believe, that we're going to do it. And it's called the Lockdown, the Paranormal Lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And so this began 3 years ago. In January, we usually close for about 3 or 4 days to do some heavy maintenance. The people in the hotel do some serious, cleaning and painting
Right.
and stuff like that. So one of those nights, and I'm not sure what date it is this year. I think it's January the 9th. Don't quote me. In fact, there you go. I just said it. Anyway, if you sign up for the lockdown, you stay at the Basin Park Hotel.
Okay.
And then the Crescent Hotel is closed, and there's no one there except for the security staff and us, the ghost tour guides. And you come to the hotel at 8 o'clock in the evening, and we have a little chat, and then we ghost hunt until 2 o'clock in the morning.
In the empty hotel.
In the empty hotel with the lights off, except for the emergency lights. It's a lot of fun. A little midnight snack, to keep it going. And that's a lot of fun too, and that's been a gas. So the tickets for that probably are not available yet. They usually go on sale like November-ish, October-ish. But check the website, the Crescent Hotel website, for that kind of thing. But those are 2 really neat events that I've really gotten a kick out of over the years.
Definitely have to check into those.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. They usually sell out, but
I'm sure.
Right.
But it's pretty cool.
So you wouldn't describe your job as being you are trying to convince guests that these ghosts are real, and here they are, and the ghost that is in this room, and this ghost is in this room. You're just telling them the stories.
We're telling the stories. We're not trying to convince anybody of anything.
Okay.
Most people, it's pretty much a given. If you're on the ghost tour, you've got some interest in it.
Right.
Usually, like I said, there are people that get drugged there.
Yeah, or your friends that made you come.
Yeah. So we take it as a given that you're probably interested in it to begin with, and then we just tell the stories, of some of the ghosts, the history of the hotel, and why we certainly have our theories about what's going on, and ideas about that that we try to share with people, and people share their stuff with us too. A lot of the guests share great photos and stories. I mean, there are about 6 or 7 of the named ghosts that we talk about on the tour. But I hear stories from people all the time. And all kinds of different stories from, and these are normal people. They're not these are just regular people that stay in the hotel. And some of them say, look, I didn't I've had a lot of people tell me, I didn't believe a word of it, but then this happened.
Right. Wasn't looking for it.
Right.
Found it.
And then something happened. And so they're kind of like me. They think a little more closely about it. So that happens pretty often too.
We definitely want to get to know some of the ghosts, get to know about some of the ghosts.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a video that I just saw that I wasn't looking for, though?
Please.
I know. So I would say I would probably define myself as a skeptic as well. I have interest in all of these things, but the same way I have interest in like a scary movie. Like it's fun. That scary movie's not real, So I'm not sure where I fall. and I know that things on social media, I would say I'm way more skeptical of anything that I see on social
Right.
media. It's so easy to fake. But literally, we had scheduled this podcast, but it was maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, just organically on my TikTok as I'm scrolling. So it wasn't something I was looking for. There's a woman on a balcony at one of the rooms, on the back side of the building, overlooking that gorgeous, the hills of the Ozarks. It's like 6 a.m. You can tell from the light, she says, but it's early morning light.
Right.
She's out on her balcony alone, and you can hear singing. And she's talking to the camera, and she's like, there is no one else out here on these balconies. And she brings her phone around to see the next balcony. There's no one out here. And she's freaking out because she's like, there is a woman out here singing, and you can hear it in the video. It's not through a speaker. You can tell when
Just like faintly in the background, kind of.
faintly in the background, and it's kind of a little old-timey sounding. And she goes and wakes up her daughter. She's like, you've got to come out here. There's a ghost singing on the porch, on the patio, and of course it stops. But all that to say, of course, anything like that is so easily faked on social media. But I found it so interesting that this was a conversation we were preparing for. I never look up like ghost videos or Crescent videos on TikTok, and that came up organically. And this woman seemed to believe what she was saying. She was so excited. Like I said, she went to wake up her daughter. Is this a ghost that you know about? Is this a common occurrence?
I am not familiar with the singing ghost.
Okay.
That one's a new one on me. But people have talked about hearing in the dining room, for example, at the Crystal Ballroom down there. People have talked about hearing party noises, and they go to open the door, and there's, of course, nobody is dark, nobody in there. And I've heard that many times from staff and guests. But we have our ghosts that are well known.
Okay.
Right.
And that we have heard about for years and years and years. I mean, some of the, at least one of these ghosts goes back, almost 100 years, and so there's, I'll just quickly name them off for you, and we can go into more details if you want to. So there is, from the Norman Baker days, first of all. And Norman Baker, we think he's a spirit there too. We when we do investigations, people try to see if he's around, and we get little confirmation on electronic devices. There's all kinds of tools that they use. So from his era, there's Miss Theodora, and she occupies room 419 up there on the 4th floor. And she was an employee of the hospital, as far as we know. And some folks say that she also went on to die of cancer herself. Now, I don't know about that, but I've heard people talk about that. But mainly we know her as an employee of Norman Baker, and she's one of them. Then also from Norman Baker's days, there is the nurse who appears on the 3rd floor, and she is seen by guests in the middle of the night, about 3:34 in the morning, pushing a gurney down the hall with what appears to be a sheet draped body on top of it, going down to the elevator, and disappears down there. Yeah, she's kind of cool. And then there's the Lady in White. The Lady in White appears in room number 3500, which is one of our honeymoon suites, and she appears back there to people once in a while. And I have a photo of her, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
It's not a great photo, but it's better than most.
Okay.
And but she appears in the room to people sometimes, really briefly. I mean, when people talk about her, she goes like
Fleeting.
that. Yeah, it's a very fleeting thing, and we don't know really anything about her, but we think she was probably a patient at the hospital because of the way she looks and stuff. We can talk about that in a minute if you want to. And so those are from Baker's time. Then we have from the School for Girls, we have Brecky, little Brecky Thompson. He's a little boy, and he was the son of the president of the College for Girls and his wife, and they ran the school for early part. He didn't run it the entire time. I'm not sure when he left, but he was there at the beginning. So Brecky was born about 1914. I'm sorry, 1914. Lived for only to be 4 years old, and he died of intestinal infection. But he's talked about in the hotel. People said they say they see him down the 2nd floor, walking down the hall, bouncing a ball, and complaining that it's not fair, whatever it is. And and sometimes they call the desk to report this lost little boy, stuff like that. Little kids talk about playing with a little boy out in the garden. He dresses funny, but is he staying here? We'll say, well, sort of. But so that's Brecky, and then the Girl in the Mist. And when your story about the balcony made me think of the Girl in the Mist because the Girl in the Mist appears on the back side of the building on the balcony, at the third floor balcony. And it's usually about 10:30 at night when this happens. And I've never seen it, but people talk about this for years, like I said, for years and years. So she appears on the balcony of the third floor around room number 312, and it just kind of in this little cloud of mist, and she kind of approaches the rail, and then the whole thing tumbles over the rail, falls into the garden down below, and it all dissipates. And then, she is thought to be a student from the School for Girls days, and she died. The story is, the event that this comes from. This young lady fell off the balcony. It was about 1915 or so. Fell off the balcony and died in the garden. And the rumor was that she was pregnant out of wedlock. And so there's it's always been a question if there was some foul play or she committed suicide or whatever.
Right.
But that's the Girl in the Mist.
Well, maybe she sings too.
Yeah, I've never heard that one, but it's entirely possible. These girls, they
I'll send you the video.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. No, send to our Facebook page.
Yes,
We've got one there too. And then there's Michael the stonemason. Y'all may have heard about him. I don't know. He's room number 218 is called Michael's room. It's the most popular room in the hotel. And he was a young man, and he helped build the hotel. His family there from Ireland, and they had come to the U.S. and so they got hired by the Eureka Improvement Company to build the limestone walls. And well, he was showing he was a very handsome young man, good looking, and strong and fit and all that good stuff. And so he was showing off. He was always his reputation was one of showing off for girls all the time, trying to impress them. And so he's showing off one day up on top of the building, and he fell into the building and he hit his head on a beam that became part of room 218, and that's how he died, and that's how it became Michael's room. So he's been here for 138 years, and we heard about him a lot. People talk about him doing all kinds of things in that room. So, and let me think, who am I forgetting? Morris the cat, of course. Morris the cat. Y'all may have heard of Morris. Yeah.
Yes. Portrait. Yes.
We have a cat ghost. We have two live cats that run the hotel now. And that's Jasper. He's the senior cat. He's like 18 years old, or a little more than 8. He's been running for 18 years. And about 6 months ago, we got Ozzy. They're both tuxedo cats, and Ozzy showed up about 6 months ago, and now he's helping Jasper run the place. So Jasper's the senior manager, Ozzy's the intern, and it's a lot of fun.
They're both helping Morris.
Well, yeah, Morris.
It all works out.
Yeah. So Morris, he ran the hotel for 21 years. He was there for 21 years. And I went to his funeral back in 1984. It was quite a funeral, too. It was a big affair. 50 people at least showed up for this thing because he was a very popular cat. And, so he's you can visit his grave. It's out back. And some folks, they say they see the orange cat running up the stairs. And little kids talk about petting the kitty, And I'll say, oh, you met Jasper. They go, no, the orange one. Okay, But so that kind of thing happens, too. And who am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting somebody. I can't think of it.
Dr. Fremont Ellis, maybe?
Oh, yeah, Dr. Ellis. Thank you, Dr. Ellis. He was a gentleman that had the, this was in the early days of the hotel. And in those days, the rich folks that came here, they came for the season. It wasn't just for a few days. They were there for weeks. So we had Dr. Ellis. He had a little practice up there for, I'm not sure how long, a couple of years at least. So his room 212 was his office. And it's a guest room nowadays, but people, they say they see a Victorian gentleman come out of that room. He's got his top hat on, mud chop sideburns, brocaded vest, smoking a pipe. They say they smell cherry tobacco in that room. And he'll float down the hall and float down the stairs. And I'm to say float because when people describe him, they always say that he has no legs. He's just floating around without legs, which is kind of weird for a lot of reasons. But we know Dr. Ellis had legs till the day he died.
At some point.
Yeah, when he had him his whole life. He died in 1931 in Eureka Springs. He was a really important man. Stayed in town for a long time, and he died of smoke inhalation. He had a building downtown that caught fire and died of smoke inhalation when he was 74 years old, and with legs. So I don't know where they went. But he's one of the ghosts too. And then, there's two kind of new ones. Not new ghosts. I mean, just new information.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, do y'all know about electronic voice phenomenon?
Sure.
Briefly.
And things.
Yeah, not
from like television
Yes.
shows.
Right,
not
right.
that I dabble in it
Yes,
personally.
Yeah, but these are some of the tools that we use the hotel for investigating, and we do have an investigation nowadays. It happens about midnight on at least 3 nights a week.
Okay.
We have the investigation. If people want to sign up for that, it's not a tour. You actually
hunting.
Yeah, you actually go around. And of course, the hotel is occupied, so you can't go into all the rooms, or whatever. But they usually go in the dining room and the conservatory where the girls' school had a lot of activity, and also the morgue. Of course. Oh, the morgue! Did you know about the morgue in the hotel?
I know there is a
Yes.
morgue
We
in the
finally,
hotel.
I'm sorry, I got sidetracked there. Yeah, the morgue. Well, briefly.
There's so much history.
Yeah. Well, that was Norman Baker's days. So
Sure,
the morgue.
yeah.
And I mean, there's not much left of it, to tell you the truth. But we kind of jazz it up a little bit for the tour. But Norman Baker, he had a makeshift morgue down there in the basement of the hotel. So when some of these people died, he'd take them down there and examine them and send them off to the mortician where they were properly taken care of. And there's a cooler in the morgue that was used for the hotel back in the early days when it was the kitchen. And that it was the kitchen.
Right.
Back in the old days, it was the kitchen. So they had this ice box down there where they'd ice down the food. Well, Mr. Baker would
Repurpose that.
ice down people in there, and so and that's where we keep our collection of jars and bottles. This was about 5 years ago.
I was going to
read
ask.
about that.
Yes.
About 5 years ago,
I remember it.
Yeah, it was very exciting. Our gardener was digging a spot for a compost pile, and she found these jars and bottles and kind of turned up, and she had the presence of mind to call the boss. And well, first we had the hazmat team come check it out. They said no,
Right.
nothing here.
Because they're full of things.
Stuff. They
yes.
were liquids.
They're not
We
just
had
empty bottles
Yeah.
down there.
we had no
Glass
idea.
jars,
I mean, a
stuffed
lot of them were
stuff.
broken, but a lot of them had stuff in them.
Yeah.
And so the University of Arkansas's archaeological survey team came over and did a dig in April of 2019, and they found more than 400 of these things, and they were
That's insane.
medicine bottles, stuff, and some had specimens in them, which turned out to be bed sores. Actually,
Wow.
They were human. They were human specimens. We didn't, we weren't sure because he was a vaudeville man. That's one of those things. Norman Baker's first job, he was a magician. He was a hypnotist. He was a vaudeville performer before he became a medical man. Yeah. But his big breakthrough, he invented a thing called the calliophone. It was a music machine, basically an electric pipe organ, basically. And he made, today's money, what would have been $20 million off this thing within a couple of years. And that was how he got his start. Anyway, I got sidetracked again. But yeah, so the jars and bottles, so we have about 200 of those on display in the morgue area to look at too for people who come on the tour. And they're pretty neat little things. Maybe formula number 5, his medicine.
Formula
Yes.
number 5.
Formula number 5.
Yes.
Okay, the secret formula number 5. So this is what he would cure people of cancer with, okay? And it was a concoction of ground watermelon seed, corn silk, water, glycerin, peppermint oil, clover, a little alcohol, and a dash of carbolic acid. They would cook the stuff up. They would filter it, distill it, do whatever they would, and then they would draw it up into syringes and inject it into the people. They would inject it into their bodies and size their tumors. This was supposed to be the cure for cancer. So that's what was going on there with some of these people. Getting several shots a day of this stuff. And
Can't believe it didn't work.
Yeah, what a shock, right?
Carbolic acid. I thought that'd really do it.
I mean, just not good for you. But most folks went home and died because he'd tell them they were cured. But so formula number 5, that was his big thing. And he didn't invent that either. He stole that from another doctor, a real doctor who was selling it as a fake cure. And that's where that came from. But
it's interesting to me that we think that Norman is there at the Crescent when he was only there in life for 2
years.
3 years
2
maybe when
years.
he bought it. And died in Miami. Like he went to prison. He lived several more decades. Died in luxury in Miami on his yacht. But now he's back at the Crescent.
Well, Larry, the guy I talked about, Larry Flaxman, he would tell you that, it's again, he's in that quantum entanglement and everything else, so, he'd be able to explain that better than I could.
Okay.
But all I can tell you is that when we do investigations in the morgue, quite often, we have our little machines out, REM pods and other gizmos to detect energy. I got my analog ghost meter here with me.
So we're gonna find out.
So
If
it's probably going nuts in here. It'll probably go nuts in here.
With all the electronic
Let's
equipment.
just see what happens here, just for the fun of it. No, it's actually I'm getting 0. So there you go. You're mortals.
Phew.
You
All right.
guys work out
Phew.
okay.
You didn't bring any ghosts with you today.
Studio is
leave
not
it-
haunted.
Let's just leave it here for a minute.
Okay.
Let's just leave it here for a minute. See if anything cooks up. Stay still. I can't get to stand up on it. So here, I'll do it this way. Wait. Here. Is that in the camera?
There we go.
There we go.
There we
Yeah.
go. The sensor's actually on the back. The little gold disc back there is the
Okay.
sensor.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just banged the mic. The poor technician. Ah! So this gizmo it detects very small electrical potential.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be anything from static to real electricity, which it goes crazy when I'm around a fuse box or whatever. But I got to be pretty close to it. Anyway, so stuff like this, we'll have it down in the morgue, and it won't be doing anything. And then people will begin to, try to call.
Yeah.
Norman Baker, are you here? Or is anyone here? So and then sometimes it'll start beeping, and then like on my tour sometimes I'll be down there and there's a drain in the morgue that we think was probably
Used as a drain.
yeah, used as a
In a
drain in
morgue.
the morgue.
Yeah.
It was not for you medical folk. It was not a professional autopsy room. Okay, they were not using best practices. All right. So and I'll put the thing down by the drain, and almost quite often it goes off. And there's no particular reason for that I can tell you of electrical nature. And and I'll make a comment about Norman Baker, and it'll zoom up. Or people will. Larry, he says he got scratched down there by Norman Baker one time because he was making fun of him, teasing him. So he quit doing that. But so yeah, most of the confirmation that we get about these things are of the electronic variety.
Right.
I myself have never seen an apparition. Some of my fellow ghost tour guys have seen things that they can't explain. I have seen one very odd thing I can tell you about if you wish.
Please.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
going to be a
We've all been
different
waiting
Okay,
question.
right.
Question.
It was pretty weird. So I was in Michael's room, okay, and this is Michael the stonemason, right?
Right.
And it was the ESP weekend. I was in there with 4 other people. It was 4 young ladies. Well, okay, 3 young ladies. The one girl who was her 18th birthday, her 2 friends, and the birthday girl's mother. Okay, so they're in the room, and we're in the room, and ESP weekend, like I said before, we don't occupy. We
Right,
have
those rooms
they're
are
open. And we're doing some ghost hunting right now. I'm in there because I'm the tour guys. We stay in the rooms to just keep an eye on things, right? So I'm in there, and they come in, and there's not much going on, and so they want something to happen, okay? So they asked the birthday girl if she would get on the bed to be bait for Michael, okay?
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, 18 years old, right? Anyway, about the right age. So the smart kids, they get their phones out and they start playing YouTube videos of Irish music to try to attract
Right, 'cause
Michael.
He's Irish.
Yeah, so we got river dance. We're having some fun in there. We're laughing it up, and and there's a chest of drawers in the room that's behind. So the bed is this way, and the chest of drawers is across from the bed. And people have talked about these drawers and doors opening and closing by themselves, for a long time, And so we're in there, and we're dancing around, having a few laughs, just having some fun. It's getting late. It's like I said, it's about 1 o'clock in the morning at this point. We're getting a little punchy, And the girl in the bed, all of a sudden, she stops laughing, and she, does the surprise look. She points behind us. We turn around. Blah! The upper right-hand drawer and the chest of drawers is just slowly opening all by itself.
Oh, man.
You watched it open.
Yes, I am not making this up. This is a strange thing, okay? And that's, like I said, that's one of those things I go,
Right.
And so it was pretty weird. And we all, of course, freaked out for a second or two, but then we regained ourselves and we closed it, and we were banging on the dresser and kicking it and stomping it and trying to make it open again, and it didn't happen again. And in my personal experience, I've not seen it happen again since, in the 4 years since then. This is my first DSP weekend, by the way.
Okay.
It was the first year of my ghost hunting duties, and I'd never done it before, so I was pretty surprised. Let me tell you, I was pretty
Properly
surprised.
inducted.
I'll tell you
First
what,
time.
it was surprising. I'm not kidding. I was really surprised. I still get a little goose pimply when I think about it. So, fun thing about this. About 2 months ago, I'm doing the tour, and I'm telling the story about the drawer opening in front of the room, and the people are all, of course, not believing me. No, I think that, I don't know. They probably, who knows, if they believe me or not. But this one lady's giving this kind of a knowing, nodding look, and I'm like looking at her, and she goes, "I'm the mother." The mother of the girl had come back 5 years later.
So she could confirm your story.
Well, she was on the tour with I guess her husband, and I don't know who the man was, but she was with. But yeah, and so I was
She
like,
says,
I'm so
"Yes,
glad."
I remember
oh,
that.
Yeah, we were like, we were
Wow.
reminiscing. I was like, oh, I'm so glad you're here because that was.
Wow.
She goes, yeah, she's in college now. You know,
Right.
Great. You know, but that was so cool. It was so cool to have that happen. And I've had other things like that. Not people that I've experienced with before, but so Miss Theodora, the employee from the Baker Hospital.
Right.
She is known for either tidying up your room for you, which is very nice, or trying to kick you out. It depends on how she feels about you, apparently.
Depends on what kind of guest you are.
Right, and so we've had people over the years talk about. Well, the one story that I usually tell about is this wedding couple. It's been a few years ago, but they came to get married, and it was going to be, their big wedding, but it was going to be the next day. So they were staying in 419 for the night, the night before the wedding. Well, they got into an argument, and it got kind of loud and everything. But so anyway, so they went off and when cooled off, got a drink or whatever they did. They came back to the room and they couldn't quite get the door to open up. It was, it would unlock and everything, but it was like there's something blocking the door. So they pushed really hard, get the door open, and their bags had been packed and were behind the door. Okay. And their wedding clothes, which had been in the closet, were in a pile in the middle of the floor. So Miss Theodora was,
She had some thoughts.
unhappy. Yeah, she did not like it. Yeah, and the ghost hunters, when they came, this was like I think it was 2005 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. They've been like 4 or 5 times, but one of those guys, they stayed in 419, and they said that they'd come up to get their batteries that were charging, and they wouldn't, and they'd be dead. And they'd come up to get the computer, and it was, where's the computer, and they find it hidden under the bed or something like that. Stuff like that was happening. So that's Miss Theodora. And so I had a guest on the tour one night. I'm doing the Theodora story out in front of the room. And this guy, he's over there talking to his family, and I'm like, how rude, because he's totally ignoring. And so at the end of the tour, he pulls me aside and says, I'm really sorry about upstairs. I was not being rude. He said, I stayed here for 12 years ago. And I'd never been on the tour. And you were telling that story about people getting their bags packed. Well, I went out to dinner. I was by myself. I went out to dinner. I came back from dinner, and my bags were packed. And I just thought, what? He didn't know anything about it. He just thought, well,
right.
I guess the
hotel staff.
Yeah, I guess the maid did it. I don't what he was just totally bumfuzzled by it. Had no idea about it until 12 years later I told the story. So I love that kind of thing, that confirmation of those kind of things. It's so cool when that happens. But he was the guy from Australia, by the way. He was Australian.
That's also cool that people are staying at the hotel that don't know some of these stories, having their own organic experience, and then hear, it's because there's a ghost in that room.
Right, yeah. I get a lot of people sometimes a little bit surprised on the tour, we'll stop in front of the room, they go, oh, what,
Yeah.
Or the honeymoon suite especially, I'll be telling the story about the lady in white back there. Oh, it's a honeymoon suite, like I said, we have lady in white. And then the people are like, wait a minute, we didn't know. Because they don't tell you you're getting a haunted room.
There's no
but most
disclosure.
folks book them most people book them on purpose. Though is the thing.
Right.
That's what's kind of interesting about it. Most people they book them on purpose.
Yes. So you've shared several stories of things that have been told to you and stories that you share on the tour, and so the drawer opening, that's your biggest personal that you've witnessed.
Yeah.
Are there any other stories that either someone on the tour has told you or another tour guide that you're like, wow, that's pretty unbelievable?
Yes. Thing I've ever heard.
Brekkie. So people sometimes bring a ball, because they want to see if Brekkie will interact. And these things, on the tour, I think on the tour it's less likely to happen.
Okay.
Because you got a crowd of people. And you're kind of distracted, so it's not, the tours
Makes sense.
don't yield quite as many of these kind of things. Now, the tours yield some photos. I've seen a lot of photos from people on the tours, and it's just kind of weird shapes on the wall, or there'll be a reflection in the window or the mirror that wasn't, shouldn't be there, and stuff like that. But so on like ESP weekend, these people, they'll bring all this equipment, and it's a little more, focused ghost hunting at that time. So we're sitting there one night, and I was not there. I was in another room when this happened, but they told me that. And there was a video too of it, and it's on Facebook somewhere. I couldn't tell you where, But so they brought a ball, and they put it on on the hall where Brecky's said to be seen quite often, and they were all just kind of, Brecky, are you here? That kind of thing, and then get little beeps and bops on the electronic devices and whatever. And the ball just starts rolling down the hall by itself. And I mean, it's an old building. I'm not saying the floors were level,
Right.
but this was a little unusual.
But it was stationary.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then it wasn't stationary.
Yeah, right. It started moving by itself. And so that was kind of cool. And so I saw that video, and that was pretty cool. And one of our guides, Diane is her name, Dame Diane, she gets lots of photos of little... just little apparitions, little misty little apparitions. And some of them are a little more clear than others. There's one, she's got a little girl that's really just clear. And it's just, weird. And the people on the tour that, this was during a tour when she got this one. And it might not be from her. I mean, someone on the tour sent it to her, I think. And it's just kind of weird. And the little kid, she's in, kind of a old, it looks like probably 1930s-ish. Dress, a little curly, like a little Shirley Temple looking kid, and you just wonder what's going on. Is some kid running around playing tricks on us, Now I, unfortunately, or it depends, I sometimes appear in pictures as the ghost of the doctor. I'm down the hall, and so I'll go, and so it's just me.
It's just me.
Surprise! It's Dan.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so we get some stuff like that. Like
Can
I said,
you?
go
Sorry,
ahead.
no.
You go ahead.
Can you walk us through what a typical ghost tour sounds
Sure.
like, looks like? What's the evening like?
Sure. Well, it's about an hour long.
Okay.
The regular tour, and so you start on the 4th floor. And so it's an easy stroll down the stairs. We don't go into any of the rooms because it's a working hotel. People are usually in them, but we do wind up in the morgue at the end of it. Also, you get to see the inside of the morgue certainly. And it just begins with a very brief history of the hotel, and then about 5-10 minutes, and then you start going on the tour. And we started at room 419, which is Theodora's room, and we tell about her, and then we go down to the 3rd floor, where the lady in white appears and the nurse appear. That area is called the asylum area because there's a part of the building down there that Norman Baker. It was during the School for Girls. It was the music department. When Norman Baker got here after the hotel had been closed for about 3 years, he remodeled that into the asylum, and that's where he would put people before they were going to die back there, or if they were complaining too much about the pain, he'd stash them back there so they wouldn't disturb the other patients. And so that's where the nurse comes out of the asylum because people died in there, and that's where the lady in white is because we think she was a patient. But so that area is and like I said, now it's honeymoon suites. So, but anyway, so they stop there for a little bit and talk about Norman Baker and the asylum area, those ghosts. Then we go down to the 2nd floor, talk about Brecky. And talk about him, and then Dr. Ellis, talk about him a little bit, or sometimes it depends. Every tour has a little different, tour, a little different take on it. Some are more serious about it. Some are more. I'm a little more, conversational and
wherever the tour leads you.
Right, and just a little more historical probably. It just depends on who you get. And then from there, we go down to the lobby and talk about the School for Girls activities, and sometimes that's where I will tell the Girl in the Mist story, and some people tell the Girl in the Mist story on the 3rd floor because that's the floor it happened on. It just depends. And we talk about the cats, of course. Everybody gets a big kick out of the cats, and then from there we head down to the morgue and discuss Norman Baker's legacy and talk about his history. And so in the dining room in the hotel nowadays. And I was talking about the REM pods and the EVPs, the electronic voice phenomenon, the what do they call them? Ghost boxes, spirit boxes, ghost boxes. So the idea is that you sit there with the ghost box and it makes this white noise, and it provides a way for the spirit to possibly communicate. Little words pop out, and then there's some electronic devices that show it as a text.
Type it out,
Right. So over the years, we've done a lot of investigations in the dining room, and a couple of names have popped up on a relatively regular basis. Sam and James. Okay. Now, not every time, but more often than others. So we knew we had no connection. We had nothing to go on. Had no idea. Well, about 4 or 5 months ago, some of our ghost tour friends, fans, so to speak, or people guess, sent us some newspaper articles they had found in the Fort Smith and Kansas City newspapers, and one's from 1904, one's from 1905. These two different incidences that were killed in the dining room at the Crescent Hotel. The first one, his name was S.M. Dutcher. It doesn't give his full name for some reason. I don't know why. But so we think Sam maybe, who knows. But the story in the paper was, and he was an African American. He was a waiter at the hotel, and he was drunk. According to the paper, the newspaper article, he was drunk in the dining room that night, and they were trying to get him out of there. And the chief of police came to get him, and he was threatening the chief with a plank, and the chief shot him dead. So that was maybe that's the Sam, who knows. But now the James one is more clear. A year later is another African American gentleman. His name was James Everett, and he was in the hotel, I think, as a guest. He certainly wasn't an employee. And in fact, his brother had a newspaper in Kansas City at that time. He was an editor of the paper up there. Anyway, so he's in the dining room, and this again is from the newspaper article. He's in the dining room, and the gardener of the hotel is having a fight with his girlfriend, and Mr. Everett tries to intervene, and when the gardener pulls out a gun, James takes off running and gets shot in the back twice and dies of his wounds.
The amount of times I've gasped on this podcast.
So those are some new ground to cover and try to just learn some more about it. But so the James, like I said, it's a little more clear on that. And whenever I go in there with my little ghost meter, I mean, I usually get a little something happening, and in the middle of nowhere. And, that's the thing. When you're in the middle of nowhere and this thing goes off, like it'll probably go off. No, I need a magnet or something. Anyway, if you're near a magnet or something, it goes pretty. The phone? No, not even the phone. But it goes pretty crazy around magnets. Right. Oh, is it on? Yeah, it's still on.
Still no notes.
But when I go in the dining room, I almost always get a little reading right near the entrance where these things were said to have happened. And I was down in the morgue, get a lot of readings down there too. But anyway, yeah. So I wanted to let y'all know about that.
So and always something new.
Yeah, and recently we have uncovered some death certificates from the Baker Hotel.
Okay.
His staff were instructed to destroy the records if he ever got arrested, because he was always on the edge a little bit.
Right.
But so he got arrested, and they burned all the records. So we didn't know a lot. We just had to piece it together from the court. There's lots of documentation out there on the court records and from the trial and everything like that. His mail fraud trial was in Little Rock and all that good stuff. But so we have found some death certificates, and they're in the archives of the state of Arkansas's Vital Records Department. But it's online nowadays, so we've been able to find them. We found, I think, 40 so far of people who died in the building.
Okay.
And so that's some names, some information. Right. The youngest one I've seen so far, a 14-year-old kid named Edward Quinn. He died of some kind of cancer. It wasn't. It's in handwriting. It's kind of hard to read.
Yeah.
And I actually have I have a couple of those copies. I don't know if you guys. I keep forgetting this thing is visual too.
Yes.
You all want to see some pictures? Some pictures?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here is. Okay, which camera should I point this at?
You can point it to the one in front.
Yes.
of you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone
With the red light.
working on this thing, or is this all autopilot or whatever?
Nope. I mean,
Okay.
they'll be editing it later.
I don't know if they can see it very well. So wait. The lady in red is not the ghost.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I see
on
it.
the TV.
Oh. In the TV set, there's an upside down image. All right.
Yeah.
Now these people, they're on their honeymoon, and that's the bride. I got the whole thing. Here's the picture's right side up now. I'm sorry, I had it upside down.
No, that's why I could see it.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause it was right for us.
Well, so the bride there is in the red, and she was in her, she was having a modeling session for her husband. So we didn't want to, embarrass her, so we could cover her with red. And so they were taking this is from a film camera. They were taking this is about 20. This is way back. This is about 20 years ago or so. So they took this picture and they got it developed, and they said, "Oh my God!" And then so they brought it to us down here at the hotel.
It's so scary.
Same
So
photo.
there it is.
Same photo. Right side up.
No.
Right side up and bigger. I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is the lady in white. This is the one that we call the lady in white. If you can notice, her jawline is a little strange.
Her face is freaking me
Yes.
out.
She's a little strange looking. So she's the one that appears to people back there in the honeymoon suite, and that's the lady in white.
Happy
That's
honeymoon.
Wow.
That's right. Oh, sorry. Sorry, guy with the headphones on. And then we have, this one may not show up very well because it's really hard to see. This is an apparition. We think it might be the girl in the mist. Can you see it? It's right outside the window.
Yeah.
It's I don't have my flashlight with me. Let me try it. It might work. Oh, see, I turn this thing on, it goes crazy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Isn't that wild?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Oh, that's kind of weird. Okay, that's my wife calling. All right. So anyway, well, it's not doing it now. Why did it do that? I don't know.
Maybe the incoming call.
That would probably be it. That would probably be it. Okay. So yeah, like I said, you got to debunk. Debunking is the thing. But so I was going to get my flashlight. I was going to try to. Okay, let's see if this. Can you see the apparition? Does this help?
Yes.
Okay. She's kind of outside the window there. Mm-hmm. And this young man in the photo is getting married soon. This is up in the bar, and it's right above the balcony where the girl in the mist appears.
Okay.
And so they were just taking some photos. He was having a few laughs, but they got that apparition out there. I don't know if they can see it on the thing, but anyway, y'all can edit it out if you have to. But that's another one of the cool photos that we have. Now, these other, sorry, I got to turn my.
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay, these are paintings that were done by a lady named Rebecca Becker, and she used to work at the hotel for us, did research for us. And she would paint these paintings based on people's descriptions.
Okay.
She's a very talented painter. It was a card set we used to sell back in the day, but we don't have it anymore. So this is Miss Theodora, what she's supposed to look like.
Okay.
And you can see she's a little seems kind of stern to me in the expression. But she's from 419, and this is little Brecky. Now, we have a photo of Brecky Thompson in our ghost parlor, which is the room we start the tour in.
Okay.
And so she found that photo about 16 years ago. She painted this 22 years ago from people's descriptions. They're strikingly similar. And I'm sorry I don't have a photo of Brecky. I'm sorry I don't have a photo of Brecky. Wait, let me look at something. Maybe I do. Let me look real quick. Through here real quick. Maybe I'll get lucky.
Just keep thinking of the lady in white. She's going to haunt my dreams.
Her missing jaw.
It is pretty, people do get a little shocked
again,
by it sometimes.
the skeptic in me knows that photos can be faked.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a photo in person that looked like that of alleged paranormal activity. That is really freaky.
It's one of our favorites, I got to tell you. And then
it's so clear.
And then here's a couple. Okay, this is Edward Quinn's. Yeah, this is Edward Quinn's death certificate. You can't. It's hard to read. But
yeah,
that's his death
certificate. That have recently been.
Yeah. We got a handful. I brought a handful. This is my little ghost notebook I carry around with me when I'm doing the tour.
No, we appreciate you bringing it.
And I brought on the expert tour. Like I said, you get a little more information, a little more details, and especially about Norman Baker. There's a lot more to say about him because he's just a weird cat, man. He's just a weird cat.
Infamous.
But yeah, infamous indeed. But I don't know, what else should we talk about?
It's, as we were saying at the beginning, the Crescent is such it's historically significant, obviously, but I think it's very tied to Eureka Springs itself.
Oh, yeah.
Because of how many significant things were going on at the hotel. And as you said, the town was founded around this spring, and people thought that coming to the area that the springs had healing properties. I've seen some of the storytelling go basically, it could have just been these people got out of the city and got some fresh air and got some good water and they're magically cured. But it's so interesting the way that the city and the hotel's histories weave together. Like you said, the owners also bought the Basin Park Hotel. Mm-hmm. There's lots of names for everything. But I personally love Eureka Springs. My parents live out of town. Every time they come in town, we want to go up. Okay. It's just such I love just walking through the streets, and it feels like there's so much history in the town. And we always go by the Crescent. I've never stayed. I've never done a ghost tour, but we always go and just poke around and look around. I've been for the pre-COVID for the Saturday morning brunch or lunch breakfast buffet, which was great in the Crystal Dining Room. But I guess all that to say, that personally is why I was so excited to have you here, because I have heard some of these stories just through my own research or just walking around the hotel and seeing photos, but also because I love Eureka Springs and I love the history, and it's a different feel sometimes when you go to a city that still has so much history visually on display everywhere you go, and you can see the different eras of the town. You can see here's where this burned down and here's where it was rebuilt or like whatever. So anyway, just kind of a tangent, I guess, but I love Eureka and I love the Crescent, and that's why I personally was excited to have you here.
Oh, well, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and I think to that point, like we talked about, Celebrate really likes to tell stories about people, about happenings, about places, and so I think the Crescent Hotel being the landmark that it is, and Eureka Springs being so rich in history that it is, it was something really exciting that I thought we could bring in to our audience. And of course, Jocelyn and I personally were really excited for the spooky aspect of it, specifically now the lady in white that's going to live in my memories forever. But so
are those photos on the Crescent's website or Facebook page, or
probably
is that a tour exclusive and you have to go to? Do people get to see the photo if they go on the tour with you?
Okay. I always show it. I'm really into using the visual aids as much as I can.
Yes.
But I don't recall if it's on the website or not. Now, I mean, if you dial up, Crescent Hotel on the Google, you'll probably see a lot of these pictures.
Yeah.
And other people's pictures.
Yes.
And we do our Facebook page is America's Most Haunted Hotel is the Facebook page. And there's all kinds of
that might be where I've seen some
post
photos
things there
before. Yeah.
And then there's another Facebook page. I just can't remember the name of it. Diane runs it, she does it, and it's not like an official Crescent Hotel page, but a lot of people post things there too. It's like Crescent Hotel Ghost Group or Ghost Tour Group or something like that.
Some combination of those words, you might be able to find it.
I would think so. And so there's photos on there too.
Yeah.
Now there was a video of that drawer opening that somebody had on the Facebook page, and it's from probably 2.5 years ago. So it's scrolled
Way down
I don't know how the heck you'd find it. That's one of those problems with the Facebook page. You can't go back and find these things very easily. And it was a guest video, so I don't know anything how to find it.
Right.
And that's another thing. For anybody that comes on the tour, when you brag about your picture and I give you my phone number and you don't send it to me, I'm terribly upset.
So send your pictures to
Dan.
So yes,
I get that a lot. They'll say, "Oh man, look at this great photo I got." Oh, send it to me.
Never hear from them again.
Never hear from them again. Yeah.
So you told us about the ESP weekend and the lock-in, which are both in January.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If people want to know more about the history, the hauntings, the city, if they want to come for a tour, where do they find all that information?
Go to the Crescent Hotel website, which I couldn't tell you the URL off the top of my head, but just dial up Crescent Hotel Eureka Springs, you'll get it pretty quick. ReserveEureka.com is the website where you can actually buy tickets online, and for lots of events in Eureka Springs, not just the ghost tour. And but and there's a calendar. You can pick the time and everything like that. The Midnight Investigation is kind of a newer thing. We've only been doing that for a few months, and it's taken off pretty well too. It's pretty interesting. And like I said, you get to wander around the hotel late at night for an hour or so, an hour and a half, and get to play with the ghost hunting equipment. It's a lot of fun, and with experienced people. The people who do the investigations are actually longtime, at least amateur paranormal investigators. They didn't just pick it up. They've been doing it for longer than they've been tour guides.
That's a unique experience in itself to get to do something like that with people who have been doing it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what am I forgetting? I can't think of anything.
That's okay.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
I'm sure more information for all of those things you can find it on the website and on the social media pages. Yes, we covered a lot, but I also feel like didn't even scratch the surface.
That's right.
So you'll
Schedule
have
my
to
tour.
go and take
That's
a
right. You
tour.
must go on
can
a
take
tour.
the experts tour.
Yeah, if you can. I mean, I certainly recommend the 10 o'clock tour, only because you just get more information.
Right.
You know, it's a little bit longer. It's the end of the night, but some people, you know, it's kind of late. You know, sometimes they
Are they maybe a little bit smaller tour sizes since it's a little later? And
we do keep it down to 16 people
Okay.
on the expert tour if we can. You know,
Okay.
usually we can. The normal tour usually is about 20 people.
Okay.
And like I said, it's about an hour on the normal tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a walking tour. If you, and I mean, we can certainly. We have an elevator. I mean, people with mobility, you know, issues. We can do our best to accommodate them, and there is you can still get in the morgue with a wheelchair. I've been able to get people in with wheelchairs into the morgue without any difficulty. There's a ramp and all that good stuff. So don't feel like you have to be, you know, an athlete to do this tour. you can certainly do it, even if you have mobility issues. We will accommodate you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, there's lots more to check out and learn about the hotel itself, but also
I would
about
mention
all
this,
of its
though.
ghost residents.
If you're thinking about going on a Halloween ghost tour, I would say you may be too late, but it wouldn't hurt to check
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay.
But, you know, check it out anyway. There, you know, we usually hold a tour or two back, you know,
Just in
and not
case.
open it until the day of. But yeah, this time of year especially, it gets pretty busy pretty fast.
Spooky season.
Yes.
Oh, we have a lot of folks that show up on the weekend, you
Right.
know, and think they can just walk in and get on a tour, and it's really even you know off season. It's still even the weekends. Usually the weekends, it's a little more difficult just to walk in and get on a tour. They are surprisingly popular. It's amazing to me, but it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I really dig it.
I love it. I'll have to book one. Maybe we'll go on one together and we'll
go.
do a follow-up podcast like live from the tour.
That'd be fun.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for being here and for sharing some of your stories with us.
Sure, thanks.
If anyone goes and takes a tour with Dan, you'll have to let us
Yes.
know on our Instagram page. Reconnect to
Tag us
celebrate.
with your own pictures
Yes.
after you send them to Dan.
Yes.
After you send them to
Send them to me.
Dan, make sure to text your pictures to Dan. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.